Hey guys, welcome back. So I feel like I need a cup of coffee or something to sit down because this is going to be a little more of a serious, just talk through kind of video where I just want to talk to you guys about cocooning and bonding and what that looks like for an adoptive family, why we do it, and that kind of stuff. So if you are interested in hearing a little more about that, then just keep watching. I was going to put this clip in at the end of the video, but then I thought this is a really long video and people might not make it all the way through, so I'm going to put this in the beginning. I'm going to be filming another kind of adoption topic video with my husband, and we are going to talk about kind of basically a husband's perspective on adoption. So if you have any questions specifically for my husband about adoption, then please leave them below in the comments so we can try to answer them in that next video that we're going to do. Like I said, that's going to be kind of him and I together, and we're going to talk about husband's feelings on adoption. Be sure to leave those questions below. Okay, back to the video. For us, in case you don't know, we have adopted twice before. Our son Noah was adopted at 9 months old, and then our son Jonah was adopted at 7 weeks old. So I'm going to talk a little bit about them specifically, not too much. I'm just going to talk more in general about what cocooning is and bonding is and why people do it. And I will give you guys a few examples. I want to be careful to be really respectful of my children and their stories and, you know, their past traumas and things. I'm not looking to expose all of their history on the internet for everyone to see. So let me start by saying this. When a child is abandoned or placed for adoption or any of those things, it is an extremely traumatic event for them. A lot of times, it really depends on where you're adopting from and what the situation of the child is. But a lot of times in these international countries, these children are abandoned by their parents, and then they're going into an orphanage setting, and sometimes they might go into a foster home for a little bit and then back into an orphanage setting. The orphanage setting can either be okay, it can be really, really horrible. There's a lot of things that can happen, honestly, to a child in the first few years of their life that really dictate the way that they view things and the way that they view people. And one of those things is that a lot of times when these kids are in an orphanage, they have multiple nannies. Okay, so they don't have a mother figure. They have multiple mothers, if you will, and they usually call them mama. So they will call 10 different women mama. And that can make it really hard when their new mama comes in and they have to learn how to form that relationship. They have to learn how to understand what it is to be a child and have parents. To have two people that are your sole source of love, support, food. It's really important to remember that these kids a lot of times they go without. They don't have enough. So food can be a big issue sometimes for these kids. And so it's really, really important as parents that when we, for lack of a better term, take possession of the child, that they learn straight away that we are going to provide for them everything that they need. These two people, this mom and dad, for example, in our situation, we are going to provide everything that you need. If you are hungry, we're going to make sure that you have food. If you're thirsty, we're going to make sure you have a drink. If you have a wet diaper, we're going to change your diaper. Or if you need to go potty, whatever it is, they really need to learn that that is coming from these two people, because they have to figure out that relationship now and what that looks like. So this can be really challenging for a lot of people, because when they come home, grandma, grandpa, aunts, uncles, friends, everyone who's been waiting on this child for months and months just wants to pick them up and love them and squeeze them and kiss them and hug them, and it's totally understandable. But that child is totally confused. They don't know. Who is my mom? Who is my dad? What's really happening here? Oh, this nice lady, and a lot of times children that come from an orphanage setting will struggle with what they call indiscriminate affection. And it means that they don't care who you are. If you are showing an interest in them, they will be very affectionate to you. And people take that as like, oh my gosh, that's so sweet, look, she's hugging me or whatever. And it's actually really a very bad thing. And this is I'm going to give you a personal example. When my son Noah came home, he was 9 months old. And a lot of times people think, oh, he was a baby, I'm sure it was whatever. It was so easy, or it was a smooth transition or whatever. Absolutely not the case. He struggled very much with indiscriminate affection. He had no idea who his people were. And I didn't know as much then about cocooning and bonding as I do now. We went out to a restaurant. He had been home just a few days, and as we were leaving the restaurant, in the corner I saw one of my clients. It was a husband and wife and kids, and their parents were there. They were out to eat. And I walked over to the table to say hello to them, and as soon as we approached the table, my son Noah reached for the husband, like, hey Dad, you know, and they all thought it was so cute. Oh look, he wants to be held by, you know, the husband, and you know, and everyone thought it was so cute. And my heart was just breaking, because I knew that it meant that he had no clue who we were, and how important we needed to be to him. And so that's when I kind of was like, all right, it's time to go back into the house, shut ourselves in a little bit, and start from scratch. And it's important to note that children of any age will grieve. Even Jonah at 7 weeks old had to go through a grieving process when we picked him up. And that, you know, a lot of times for babies, that looks like sleeping a lot. As in way more than a 7-week-old, 8-week-old baby should be sleeping. All day, all night, all the time, barely ever awake. You know, that was how he grieved, was he just slept through it, because I think the heartbreak is too much for them, and they're just too young to know how to express it in any other way, so they kind of just shut down and they sleep a lot. So it can look very different, but it absolutely exists for any child. I hate to say this because it makes adoption seem like a bad thing, but it's really, really important to remember as a parent. Like, for example, when we go over to get Rosie, she doesn't know that she's an orphan living in an orphanage and that she deserves a better life, and she doesn't know that. She knows that she's, you know, for the most part, she's pretty happy where she is. She doesn't know what her future looks like there, if that makes sense. She doesn't know that she's going to end up in a mental institution when she's 13 or 14. She doesn't understand that. So it's like being kidnapped. It sounds really horrible, but that is the only way to explain it, is that somebody comes and picks you up at your house and puts you in a jacket and takes you on a train and drives you to some office you've never been to, and hands you to someone you don't know, and then that person is fawning over you and crying and kissing you, and you're going, who are you? And it's very, very traumatizing, and it is essentially for them like being kidnapped, and it takes some time for them to really understand what's happening, and that these people that have come for me do love me, and they're not here to hurt me. There's a whole lot of emotions that go into it, and it's a side of adoption that I don't think enough people talk about. I think as adoptive parents, here's what I know, is that adoption has changed our lives, and we absolutely love it, and we want to encourage people to adopt. And so I think that sometimes people tend to kind of gloss over the bad stuff because they don't want it to scare people away. I think it makes adoptive parents hesitant to talk about the hard parts of it because we don't want to scare people away. We still want people to adopt. But it's really important to talk about it, because if you don't go in understanding all of that, then it's going to make your adoption journey very, very difficult. You need to go in understanding why your children feel the way they do, why are they acting out the way that they are, you know, why are they struggling with things? Why are they hiding food under their bed? Why, you know, things like that. So basically what cocooning is it's a form of bonding. that it looks a lot like attachment parenting, but it is not only encouraged, but very, very strongly recommended by your social worker, your adoption agency, your home study agency. Any of those people are going to encourage you to go through a cocooning process. And basically what that looks like is you come home with your child from the airport or wherever, if you've driven to the hospital to pick up your baby or whatever the case may be, you come home and you cocoon yourself inside your home. You make your world very, very small. Some people set a time frame on it and say we're going to do this for 6 weeks. A lot of times people do that, I think, because they feel like it's going to help make it easier for their relatives and friends to have some like end game for this. But I personally think that you need to go into it saying we're going to do this as long as this child needs us to do this. And so what you do is you live in that world, you live in that bubble in your home. You don't take your child to church with you, you don't take your child out to the grocery store, you don't do any of that stuff. You stay home and you play and you snuggle and you love and you feed and you nurture and you give your child all of those things that they didn't get in an orphanage and in whatever situation they were in before, and you show them, you help them to learn, like, I'm mommy, this is daddy, we love you, we are here to meet your needs, we are going to meet your needs. One of those other things is a lot of times adoptive kids won't cry, they won't have fits, they're not going to throw tantrums if you say no about something, and people will be like, oh, well, look at that, they're so well behaved. No, they're not. They just learned that no one gives a flying flip about them and their feelings. They've learned not to bother expressing their feelings because no one cares. And that is, it's very sad. So honestly, you will find that adoptive parents will sometimes rejoice the first time that their child has a tantrum over some food or a toy, because it means that, like, I'm getting all teary, because it means that they know that you love them and you care about their feelings, and what they're feeling matters to you. And that is a huge, huge step for an adoptive child whose feelings have never been cared about before. It doesn't matter if they're still hungry, there's no food left. It doesn't matter if they wanted to play with that toy, it's survival of the fittest. So it's actually a really good thing. And I remember the first night that Noah cried all night, and I sat up downstairs and rocked him. Prior to that, he'd gone to sleep in his crib and slept through the night, or in our bed, and slept through the night. And then one night, weeks and weeks after he had been home, he woke up crying and cried all night. And it sounds really horrible to think that that you would be happy about that. But as an adoptive parent, like, you know, this means that he knows I'm going to come in there and I'm going to get him and I'm going to snuggle him and he can just keep crying and I'm still going to be here, and he's going to understand that, he's going to start to feel it and start to trust me. So really what this looks like I said, is making your world very small. The only person who should hug, love, feed, change, do any of those like primary care things should be yourself and your husband, yourself and your spouse, whoever that is. Those should be the only people that do that, period. Period, point blank, not siblings, because if you've ever been to an orphanage or visited one, you know that kids take care of kids there. So this is one of those times when siblings can't do it. You can't let big sister, big brother help in this. This is a mom and dad only thing until that child learns who mom and dad are. And then you'll start to notice that if you are, once you're out and about, if you are with a group of people, is your child now have stranger danger? Are they now afraid of people they don't know? Do they scan the room looking for you? Where's my mom and dad? Like any typical child would do. So there's lots of books, there's lots of blog posts written by adoptive families that go a lot further into this and kind of the psychology behind it and everything. And I will link a few of those below for you guys to look at and understand a little bit more if you want more information. But that's kind of the basics of the process. And a lot of times the other thing to note is that some people are judged very harshly for this, but adoptive families will bring their children back to infancy, if that makes sense. So if you have a 3 or 4-year-old, they will give them a bottle. And they will take them and they will hold them and they will feed them a bottle. And people would say, why the heck would you give a 4-year-old a bottle? Because we need to go back to all those years that I missed and that nurturing that the child missed. And it sometimes can sound kind of crazy, but it really does work. And you'll notice sometimes with, like, my friend adopted a little boy who was 3 and he still took a bottle, and when she would feed him, he would turn away from her. He wouldn't like look at her. He wouldn't make eye contact when she would feed him. He would turn away from her and she'd have to hold the bottle out here. And it took him weeks to like lean into her and make eye contact with her and let her feed him, because in an orphanage no one's making eye contact with you. They're stuffing the bottles in, they're holding as many as they can, they're facing you out. They're not giving you that nurturing care. So that's really another important thing too, is to sometimes go back and start that all over again. That is basically, like I said, an overview of what cocooning and bonding is and what, you know, it can look like. For us, kind of what I described is basically what it's going to be. When we came home with Noah, we had kind of an airport party, if you will, where all of our friends and family could come to the airport and meet Noah. And then, like I said, we kind of went more, well, we didn't do it at first, but then after a little bit we were like, okay, time to start cocooning. And our intention is to do the same thing for Rosie, invite all of our friends and families and, you know, supporters and just people who love us and love her, to come to the airport and meet her and give them that quick little taste that everybody wants so much, and then come home and kind of wrap ourselves up in our little family cocoon. She will be room sharing with us and co-sleeping. I will give you guys a little tour in my next video of her room area within our room and what that looks like. She does have a bed. I don't know that she'll sleep in that for a while, because it's very likely she's just going to sleep in bed with my husband and I, and that's really important, that skin to skin, the scent, you know, the snuggling and stuff. It's all so very important. So she'll probably be in bed with us for a while in our room. Anyways, I hope that you found something. I realize this is a very long and rambly video, but I hope that some of this shed some information, some light onto adoption for you and what that, you know, kind of looks like, and for adoptive families, and why we do some of the somewhat weird things that we do. But if you guys have any questions, leave them below in the comments. You can always follow me on Instagram. I'll put my Instagram name down here. I update that almost every single day. Thank you guys so much for watching, and I will see you again soon. Bye.